All right, so we're going to be going through a very advanced breakdown. This is the age breakdown, exactly how to change based on age, exactly how to test based on age. And I'm going to be giving you an example of an account that we are just starting to take over now. So there's a huge win that we found in this account. Figured this would be an incredible opportunity to actually show. So once you're in the ad account, to find your age breakdown, what we're going to do is go to the breakdowns tab here, and we're going to either type in or select age. Once we're in here, we want to filter to only our prospecting campaigns. I've done this already by filtering to 4 campaigns here, but just make sure you only are looking at your prospecting campaigns. The reason for this is we are completely fine targeting all age groups for retargeting and retention-based campaigns because those campaigns are hitting people who visited our site and showed interest. We don't care as much about removing them in this case. For prospecting though, we got to be very, very careful of who we target. So in this case, I'm just looking at the last 30 days because these guys have spent around $90,000 in that 30-day period. But if you have less spend, if you're only spending $100 a day, if you're spending $5,000 a day, look at a period that makes the most sense for you with a lot of data. What we want to avoid is any of these age groups having like 1 or 2 purchases. We really want to avoid under 10, even 50 purchases. So if you have to use the maximum amount of time, it's completely fine. Keep in mind, this operation that I'm about to do is something that should be checked regularly, ideally every few weeks. But if you're not checking it regularly, you pretty much put yourself in an opportunity where something that I'm about to show you can happen. So in the last 30 days for this account in particular, if we go down and we selected those age breakdowns and we click on results from 4 campaigns and we expand in here, we're going to see that our spend on 65 plus was $34,000. This is a young brand. And then we also see 55 to 64 was $17,000. Now, they have a very low return on ad spend here. Their overall return on ad spend was 0.89, really, really bad. But take a look at 45 and the 35 and even the 25 here. These all spent less and they drove almost 60-70% higher in return on ad spend, especially 35 to 54. So my absolute bet here is that there's something going on algorithmically. There's some issue happening here. We're overspending on older age groups that don't even match the brand's tone, and we need to make sure we are starting to spend more on the younger age groups. So there's 2 approaches we could take here. One is a conservative approach that involves testing to see what would happen. The other is an aggressive approach where we exclude. Because this is so massive, right? This is like a huge difference. I mean, we have roughly, what would that be? 52, that like 50% of the ad counts going to the 2 worst ages. That's crazy. That's really, really, really bad. So we're going to go the aggressive route. If you were on a flip side of this, where it was like a little difference, for example, maybe you saw one of your age groups in between here, like so you saw 25 to 34 at a 0.92, but you saw 35 to 44 at a 1.19, you'd say, okay, maybe we should test removing this 25 to 34. You don't need to be as extreme as I'm about to be right here. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to get extreme. In one of my existing campaigns, we're just going to use this campaign right here. We're going to go into one of our ad sets. We're going to click edit. And what we need to do is go down to our audience. Within this audience settings right here, we need to click further limit the reach of our ads, switch setup, and we need to change this age range from 18 to 65 to only 18 to, what was it, 44, I believe it was? 54, excuse me. 18 to 54. And then the next thing we need to select is, instead of use as a suggestion, we need to unselect use as a suggestion. Now, this is a great little tangent here. I'm getting the flag for website and conversion is no longer allowed. Facebook rolled that back about a week ago. So we now, instead of just being able to click publish, we actually need to duplicate this entire ad set and start this from scratch. This is a negative for us, of course, but ultimately it's something we need to do. So in this case, I'm going to duplicate this ad set. I'll just show you the full process. We're going to have 18 to 54 here. We are going to make sure we're not selecting website and shop. We are just selecting website. In this case, we're using a cost cap, and we're going to go ahead and click publish. Because we have a second version of this here, we're then going to unselect the original one, and we're just gonna shut her down. Cool. So now we have an actual ad set that's targeting the best performing age groups, and I would of course do this across the entire ad account. Now, here's the second way you could try this out if you have less acute of a situation for ages. What I would do is I go into your prospecting CBO campaign. So I'll show you that for these guys. Go into your prospecting CBO campaign. You're going to have a lot of ad sets in here, of course. And what we'll do is we're going to create a new ad set. So the easiest way to create a new ad set, of course, is just to duplicate an existing ad set. We're going to click duplicate, and we're going to go down to, let's get rid of some of this stuff in here. We're just going to go down to our audience suggestion here. We're going to change our age to the exact target that we want. So it will be 18 to 54. Now do whatever you want. Target a specific age group, click further limit the reach of our ads, switch setup. Make sure you're here at 18 to 54. It does say this is a suggestion, which indicates that we haven't selected this properly. So we need to unselect this. And then we can go ahead and publish from here. I'm not going to, because as I mentioned, we're doing the very strict approach in this case. So once we do publish this, in fact, what we want to monitor now is, does this get spend at all? And does this work better in terms of return on ad spend? If it doesn't get any spend, something that you can do is you can go into your edit here. You can click add set spending limits, set a daily average spend limit, and just give it a very small boost, something like $10, $25 per day. I'd recommend only a very small percentage of your total budget, like literally 1 to 5% maximum. This will just encourage it to spend a little bit more because we are technically narrowing down the audience. While Facebook was overspending on the wrong places, we now need to force it into a little bit of a different place. Ideally, what happens here is after a few days of doing this forced method, it figures out that, oh, these are more profitable. And then what it will also do is inform your broad algorithm that's going from 18 to 65 plus that, hey, 18 to 44 is actually more profitable than 65 plus. Now, that doesn't always happen. That's why these strict exclusions have to come into play. And it's something that I'd recommend everyone at least looks at regularly, ideally every week, every 2 weeks. I figured I would actually add on to this video because there's a couple extra breakdowns that you can do instead of making everyone watch another 5, 7, 10-minute video again. So the principle that we apply to age can also be applied to a few other breakdowns that I think are particularly important. I'll break those down, share exactly how I would test these as well. So first off, in your breakdowns, there's a ton of other options. The first ones that I would really take a look at are gender and age, of course. And then the next is going to be placement. So what you do for gender is going to be exactly the same for what you do for age. What you do for placement's a little different. So let's say you go into your placements, you want to sort these by total spend, open up everything, and you start to analyze these placements, and you notice that a few placements are significantly better than other placements. Now, what you need to do here, instead of just saying, oh my gosh, the feed is so bad, or reels are so bad, or stories are so bad, you have to think about the creative that you're putting out for each of these placements. So for example, in this case, this Instagram Reels returns at a 0.7 return on ad spend, where feed returns at a 1.08. If Reels are 30% worse, your gut reaction is going to be shut off Reels. My gut reaction, what I would encourage everyone to do, is say, how can we make Reels better? Things that we want to avoid are like massive differences that make no sense, or if we just have no capability to produce a certain kind of asset. For example, if we absolutely cannot produce Reels, we have no ability to produce Reels, which is a huge excuse these days, then okay, cut Reels out completely, cut stories out completely. If we can't produce high quality vertical video, cut them out. Now, I personally think that's a terrible idea, but I'm just, seeding with why this might be an issue. The other thing to keep in mind here is that each of these placements has an age relation to it. For example, Facebook indexes at higher ages or older ages than Instagram does. They skew a little bit younger. So you have to keep these nuances in mind. So one thing that I'm looking at when I see this data is, okay, Facebook feed is at a 1.08, not bad. Facebook Reels, we've spent way too much on Facebook Reels. Who watches Facebook Reels? Oh, older people watch Facebook Reels. Our old age, as we saw at the beginning of this video, older ages convert worse. So this might be a chicken or the egg scenario where, what is it? Causation isn't correlation or something, like correlation isn't causation, something like that. But basically that Facebook Reels might just be underperforming because we're targeting older people. Now, solving the age breakdown might solve the Reels breakdown where this might start spending less overall. So be a little bit more careful on placements, and very rarely are you hard excluding placements. In most cases, you're testing like we did in the second prescription there as well. Next piece would be country, and you can do country, you can do region, it doesn't really matter. When you're doing country breakdowns, in this case, we only are targeting the United States of America, but if you're doing country breakdowns, you have to be a little bit careful here too, and think about your shipping margins, your margins of your business, if you're tracking globally versus if you're just tracking in the States or one specific region. Country breakdowns could normally follow the same path where we break them out once, we test them in an ad set or even a campaign. And then what I would prefer to do is if you find countries that are performing well, let's pretend I had this unknown country was performing really well, I would then take that out and build a new campaign around that country specifically if I think it can get more scale. Now, be careful. Again, always be careful. We don't want to just do this if we're getting 5 or 6 purchases on a specific country. This country should be getting at least a good amount of volume compared to your average, right? 10, 20% of the average. Then it's okay to break it out. On the flip side, if it's getting no volume and you have a high, hunch about it, we'll call it, then you can break it out and give it a little bit of cash on the side. Just know that at the end of the day, you're going to want most things in that CBO structure unless those country breakdowns prove to be better on their own. Cool. That's the core of this concept. Again, hope this helped.